Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California. Right on schedule. My fridge just started powering up. I don't know what it's doing. It knows we're doing a show.
Yep. It's time to make ice for the next hour.
Yeah. Thanks, fridge.
Let's just throw some stuff around. Excellent. Well, good. At least you will have refrigerated food and ice water.
Well, now I'm looking forward to my refreshing drink later on.
Oh, good. Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games and DJ's refrigerator that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're digging into week 3 of the Summer Backlog Attack with Killer 7 and Knights and Bikes. Plus, we're talking about Yarntown, and we're going to blow the dust off the old viewer mailbag.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Plus, we have new music. It is a crazy week on Video Game Hangover. I cannot keep up with everything we have going on.
So much going on this week. New music provided this week courtesy of my refrigerator. No, we've actually got a couple of fun new tracks from Lemonectric from his album Zest Quest, which is super fun. Lots of citrus-centric or just like produce-centric track names on that album. It's super good. I totally recommend, if you like what you hear, go to lemonectric.bandcamp.com. There'll be a link in the show notes at VGHangover.com, so you can go check that out. Got a lot of cool stuff. Has a few other albums as well that are definitely worth listening to.
Nice. Is it game music or is it just original composition sort of inspired by fruit?
There was, I believe, Zest Quest is an original album, kind of like video game inspired / fruit inspired.
Yeah, we like that kind of music. We featured that on the show before.
Yeah. I don't believe there was an actual Zest Quest game. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, but that was the impression I was under.
Nice.
Yeah, super fun. I'm into it.
Excellent. And I admire any artist who picks a theme and sticks with it.
Yes, I mean, especially something so whimsical as just fruit in space.
Lemon, yeah, exactly.
Very good. Very good.
Cool,
Thank you so much, Lemonectric.
Yeah, so what was that? I'm sorry, what was the website again? Maybe I talked over your point.
Lemonectric.bandcamp.com, and I'm just saying go to VGHangover.com to get the link because I don't want to spell it, but here we go. It is LEMON, like lemon,
yep.
ECTRIC, like the end of electric. Is that correct?
That sounds right, yes.
Okay, lemonectric.bandcamp.com.
Excellent. Cool. Good find.
Yeah. Oh, my fridge. I can't believe it. We spare the listeners every week of just the endless complaining I do about all the noise in my apartment before the show. And lately I've just been like, oh, my refrigerator. I finally figured out that it's making all this noise while we're recording, and I can't really hear it because I got headphones on.
Oh.
But when I'm producing the show, I'm just like, there's this little like undercurrent of noise, and I can never figure out what it was until a few weeks ago I realized it's my refrigerator just acting up.
Wow.
So now I've got my eye on it, and this week I heard, like, as soon as we hit the record button, it's just like, and it's like, great, perfect.
You just got to start unplugging your refrigerator when we record, and
I thought I was like,
potentially risk all of your ice cream melting.
Yeah, I just got some new ice cream. That'd be real sad. But I thought about, like, I don't even know, like, could I unplug my fridge? That sounds like it would just topple over on top of me, and I would die.
Oh, I was totally joking. Don't do that. That's bad.
No, I mean, I feel like it would be okay for an hour. You know, I'm not like leaving it open in the middle of my kitchen.
Yeah.
Still probably not great.
Like if you have a power outage, like don't go, poking around in the fridge. Just keep the door closed for as long as you possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you have a power outage or if you find yourself randomly recording a podcast.
Right.
I don't know.
Just don't open the fridge.
Don't open that fridge.
Yeah.
Well, we're here now, and it's doing its thing. We might as well just finish up what we came here to do.
454 episodes of Video Game Hangover. We've finally hit on DJ's fridge.
Finally.
That's
the last thing away. There's nothing left to talk about.
Well, good. We could wrap this thing up then right now.
Right.
No, just kidding. We have video games to talk about. We are powering our way through the summer backlog attack, trying to clear out some of those old games from our collections. This week, I've been playing Knights and Bikes.
Yes. Now we're going to get the resolution we were promised last week. Find out what's going on with the Knights and the Bikes.
I remember there being some hubbub last week, but I don't remember specifically what the point was.
Well, I made a comment about
the
Knights being on the bicycles, and you were very sternly correcting me, like, oh no, they're not on the bicycles.
It's column A, column B, not to be confused with,
And I feel like you've got Knights and Bikes as the two most prominent things in your video game. At some point, they've got to be on the bicycles.
You better put a knight on a bike,
Yeah, Chekhov's knight on Chekhov's bike.
I don't know where to go with that, but I can tell you, there are no you do not play as a knight in Knights and Bikes.
This is I can't deal with this game.
Yeah. So, Knights and Bikes, a delightful little video game that I think came out late last year, published and developed with support from Double Fine, which is super exciting. I actually think Tim Schafer in the opening credits. But it is a cute little kind of coming of age, open world kind of adventure game, essentially, where you play as two little girls. One of which has grown up on a little isolated English island where her parents own a medieval-themed miniature golf course.
Okay, getting closer.
And getting closer. There's your knights, and the island and the little vacation spot have kind of fallen on hard times, and as well as some sort of tragedies in her family, and she is sort of dealing with it as best as a little kid can. And she has a new friend, and the new friend is a bit of an adventurer. And with the new friend, they start digging into sort of the legend of kind of this treasure that's supposed to be buried somewhere on the island. And the two of them set out together to sort of recover the treasure to be able to pay off their parents' debts, to save the miniature golf course, to save the island, essentially. It is, and this is not my thought, I've read this in a few reviews, it's sort of like The Goonies if The Goonies were British.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of like British patois in this, a lot of sort of like very kind of British anachronisms and references to pasties and the telly, and things like that. So it's very sort of British in tone and language, and yeah, so it's very much sort of like a Goonies style kind of wild adventure in search of buried treasure, through the filter of growing up in a small British isolated town.
At any point, do any of the characters drive a lorry?
No lorries that I've encountered thus far.
No.
Nope.
Okay. How are you on your just British vernacular?
Okay.
Keeping up with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always had a predilection for the sort of British sense of humor. As a little kid, I was watching Monty Python movies and things like that. So I get that. That's kind of baked into me, I think. I dig that.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yep.
Try setting a game in Australia. You have a challenge.
Yeah, that would be tough. I like. Have you ever seen? Pardon me for segueing here, but the little videos on YouTube, I think GQ does them, where they pick a couple of people who are in a current movie, and they get them to sort of explain like British slang, or they had one with who was it? Geez, it was I think Hugh Grant actually talking about different British slang words. They had Colin Farrell doing Irish slang and translating them into English. So they had a little tablet they would hold up, and it would have kind of the funny British word on it, and they would, this means this means this thing, and having them sort of explain it.
I have not seen that, but it sounds delightful.
They're good. Yeah, there's a series of them. I'm sort of thinking of probably 4 or 5 of them I can think of in my brain. So I would find those on the internet if that appeals to you at all. I will see if I can find them on the internet. I will put it in the show notes for our listeners.
Excellent.
Yeah. But those are good. So So yeah, it is a like I said, delightful little game, very cute, and has just a very striking art style. Everything in it looks like it's made out of sort of watercolors and papercraft.
It's fun.
And yeah, it's sort of animated in kind of a herky-jerky kind of way, but the characterizations are very vivid. It's very dialogue heavy, has quite a cast of characters, and certainly as you and your friend head out into your little island and start meeting some of the eccentric locals, it takes on even more of that flavor. Yeah, it does some interesting things too with kind of childhood fantasy and whimsy, and by way of them sort of dealing with sort of spirits that live on the island and ghosts and maybe there is some bad thing that has been churned up and is now taking over some of the villagers, and you're never really sure if it's kind of childhood fantasy or if it's done in a way that's sort of meant to be literal. Like, is this really kind of a zombie fantasy game, or is it these kids are just kind of like a little wacky, a little starved for entertainment? And also it takes place in the late 80s. So they are very much kind of the victims of pop culture of that time. It does kind of thread an interesting and delicate line between kind of fantasy and reality through the filter of being a couple of little social outcast children.
That's cool. That makes me think of Attack of the Friday Monsters.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good comparison.
Yeah. It's always just kind of mysterious stuff happening. And I kind of just chalked it up to, well, they're just kids with wild imaginations.
Yeah.
At least I think that's what was going on.
Right. And I won't dig into, obviously, whether or not you get sort of resolution on that in Knights and Bikes, but it's interesting to sort of go through kind of the mundane aspects of their lives. The little girl that lives on the mini golf course gets up in the morning and has to go feed the geese that live at the perimeter. And her dad is sort of an aging kind of retired rock star who has put all his money into this thing at the end, at the sort of middle to end of his middle age. And so again, you get all these sort of vivid characterizations and all this sort of mundane stuff. But then there's monsters, and then there's zombies, and then there's a killer something I won't dig into that shows up and you have to fight against it. And the game gives you a sort of on the fly series of abilities. So at some point, you find a frisbee, a throwing disc. And now your superpower is that it's sort of a power disc and you can throw it to sort of hit targets and kill monsters. And one of the little girls has an ability to sort of like jump real high in the air and stomp into puddles, and is always getting into trouble for kind of ruining her clothes and getting everybody wet. But that becomes a superpower in her fantasy. And that's your power move, essentially. So you have to charge up your jump and you stomp into a puddle and it wipes out all the monsters. So again, it threads this kind of thin line between, the kids are having fun and pretending, but it seems to have kind of a real world impact. And I think they're doing kind of a really interesting job at sort of piecing those things together and turning kind of fantasy into reality and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really creative.
Yeah, very much so. It fits with the aesthetic of the game, like I said, very kind of papercraft and striking. I posted a bunch of screenshots in our Discord tonight and got a bunch of folks kind of chimed in. A couple of folks chimed in who had not heard of the game, who were like, wow, that looks gorgeous. That's a really cool looking game. I would encourage folks to check it out. I think one of the things that I was afraid of with this game is that sometimes kind of coming of age stuff gets a little too kind of saccharine for me, and I just don't necessarily have the patience to deal with it. Or sometimes
it's like the last 15% of whatever game is like that, where you're just like, oh, when
they start rolling out the lessons you're supposed to learn. Yeah, exactly. And there is that in Knights and Bikes, but it doesn't get heavy-handed. It never sort of comes it never becomes a sort of a disservice to the rest of the tale. I think there's some very sort of delicate storytelling and delicate character building that's going on here that I really sort of admire, and it never sort of falls into that pit of being overly mushy and overly sort of like, this is the lesson you must learn. So I kind of dig that and appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, very cool little game. It's long. It is a very long game. I really thought I would be done with it by now, but apparently I have quite a few hours left to go. So,
how long does that mean?
How long to beat says 10 hours.
Oh, that's not long.
That's crazy.
Is that long?
Yeah.
What have we come to in this day and age?
It's not Dragon Quest long, but
no, that's true. Yeah. It's not like JRPG long, but
right.
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're comparing it to something like Wide Ocean Big Jacket or whatever, which is like 30 minutes, that is extremely long.
Yeah.
But
it's not a sort of a bite-sized experience. It's definitely sort of something a little more expansive.
Is it too long?
TBD. I don't think TBD. I can say that yet because I'm not done with it, right? I mean, I don't know. It is not overstaying its welcome. I'm compelled by it. I want to get back to playing it. So it is not turned me off from keeping with it. So I don't know. Ask me next week if it's too long.
All right. It does seem like it. It sounds like it has a few more. It's a little more towards the gamey side of the spectrum than a lot of these really narrative-driven games, though. So maybe there's maybe it justifies that a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. It's very much. It's not you just walking. I swear, it's not you just walking around this island solving puzzles. It is there. Like I said, there are little time attack monsters and little challenges, and at some point, like to open a gate, your friend has to stand on a pressure pad, and you have to stand on a complementary one, and have to figure out how to get one of them across the perimeter before the gate closes again. And so there are little things to suss out. It's very sort of gamey in that way. Mm-hmm. It's not a walking simulator, which the more I think about it, the more I guess it could have easily been if the developers had not kind of dropped all of this kind of fun, these fun little activities and stuff into it, and this fun sense of exploration and adventure.
It does make me think back to, I think it was last summer when I tried to play like Far Cry 1 and I think it was Tomb Raider Anniversary, but based on Tomb Raider 1.
Yeah.
And even to some extent playing Deus Ex Human Revolution a couple weeks ago, where I would be like really into it, play it for a few hours, feel like I've explored a significant portion of the game, and then I would just look up a walkthrough to figure out where I am, and I'm just like, oh, really? There's like how many chapters in this game? I feel like I've shot everyone in the world. But it just keeps going, apparently. Like my guy in Far Cry, especially, he had been through, he went literally up and down this mountain. He hang glided off the top of it to a pier on the other side. And it was 10% of the game at that point. I just couldn't believe it. How did games used to be this long?
Yeah. I remember having, and I think I talked about it maybe on the show even at the time, one of the Assassin's Creed games. And I've not played an Assassin's Creed in many, many years. So one of the early Assassin's Creed games where I was playing. I think I talked about it once on the show, and then played some more. And then the opening credits happened. There was a screen that said Assassin's Creed. And I'm like, how long have I been playing this? And the in-game timer said 7 hours.
Yeah, well, that one...
And I'm like, the preamble is 7 hours? That's silly.
They like to, get a little clever with their prologues in those games. I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of fun as long as, 7 hours is a long time. Huh.
Yeah. So, I guess I sometimes I'm sort of reluctant to talk about is a game too expensive or is a game too long? Because, whatever, they're trying to tell the story they're trying to tell. And sure, if you want to make an Assassin's Creed game that has a 7-hour intro, then go for it, man. But yeah, at least sort of with Knights and Bikes, it has not sort of worn out its welcome yet. So I'm still kind of into it.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm turned away from it by hearing that it's potentially 10 hours long.
Yeah.
It just from, I don't know. If I think about just very narrative heavy games and games that are kind of light puzzle solving and combining those, and if you told me, oh yeah, and it's also still 10 hours long, it's what is going on?
Yeah.
What are you doing for most of it then?
I think we're conditioned by some of these kind of smaller studio, independently developed kind of video games to expect a little more concise of an experience, something a little more,
Mm-hmm.
sort of a little more direct and to the point that doesn't sort of ramble on for 10 hours. And yeah, I think maybe that's why I'm surprised that Knights and Bikes is 10 hours. When I played the demo for it at PAX East earlier this year, I was like, oh, this should be a fun little jaunt. This should be a fun little, just a cute little short game I can kind of drop into a show somewhere and play. No, man, I still have a lot of like things to check off on my
for weeks.
treasure map. Yeah, exactly. And it's a much sort of more substantial game than I had previously thought it would be.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of my bias coming to it more than anything. Yeah. I don't know. It's sort of like saying it looks like a short game, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Who knows what that looks like anymore?
So I will say the knights thus far come in with sort of the medieval themed mini golf park, and the bikes is you and your buddy throughout the course of the game have at some point one bike and later on eventually, no spoilers, two bikes.
A second bike,
you can share.
It's kind of implied.
To ride around on the island. And you can do tricks and you can speed on them and do little wipeouts and turns and stuff like that. And it's fun. The opening credits, in fact, of the game are great because one of the characters is a little rocker kid and she's kind of obsessed with mixtapes. So it's playing kind of just blaring punk rock while you and your buddy pedal the hell out of your bikes through the woods over the opening credits. It's real fun. So I dig it. Again, a lot of sort of like fun childhood whimsy to this. One little detail I will throw out as well is that this is also a co-op game. So if you want to have somebody else in your house with you play the other character, you can play this entire game together in co-op if you would like to.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm playing it solo. I could not convince Sarah to spend 10 hours with me on this. And it works just fine. You use the shoulder buttons as you do in kind of many kind of co-op games to alternate between the two characters.
Okay.
When you're trying to sort of complete puzzles, like I mentioned, where one of you stands on a pressure pad, the other one does a thing. The AI is pretty smart and intuitive and has really never been frustrating at all. So the other character does the thing they're supposed to do while you're waiting on the pressure pad or whatever. We're good in sort of like attack mode as well. So each of the characters has a couple of little kind of power-ups and attacks they do throughout the course of the game. And your co-op partner will hold her own while you're battling off zombies on your corner of the screen too. So
that's good.
Some pretty impressive AI there. Or you could just hand a controller to another person and have them play that other character with you throughout the thing as well.
Well, nice option.
Yeah, definitely.
Feels a little strange I don't know how the balance is, like action puzzle gameplay versus story, to have a co-op partner in there, but that's cool. It's a little different.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't remember it popping up at PAX, and I certainly didn't play it with somebody at PAX. So when the start screen popped up, and it was like, have another character turn their controller on to occupy player 2. I went, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Didn't have a player 2, but So Knights and Bikes is the name of this game, if I've not been clear on that.
Yeah.
Enthusiastically would recommend.
Oh.
Yeah.
What are you playing this on? Is it on the Switch?
I'm playing it on the Switch, but I know it to also be on the PS4 and PC at this point. So it is accessible in many places you play games.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll just
definitely
throw it on top of the backlog.
Yeah, exactly. So my backlog for this year becomes your backlog for next year.
Yeah. That would be interesting. It's the handoff.
Just play each other's games 1 year off from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool. Well,
yeah.
Speaking of the backlog, speaking of Knights on Bikes, I played Killer 7. I played a little bit of it. I have no idea. It's probably like 150 hours long.
Did you know how long to beat it?
I know. I mean, I did that with all the games on my backlog a few weeks ago. I think they were all I think Deus Ex and maybe this one were between 10 to 20 hours. Bloodborne is like 40, which is horrific. And then my last game was also like 40. But I don't know, like 10 to 20 hours for this sounds about how I'd expect, I think. I don't know.
Main story 13, main plus extras 15.
13, sure.
Completionist 17. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. You're right in that buckle.
Yeah. It's like an old GameCube / PS2 era game. It's not like, I don't know. It's not exactly like a AAA title that came out back then. So like 13 hours sounds about right.
So it doesn't look like a short little indie game.
No,
it doesn't look like Dragon Quest.
No, it falls somewhere in between.
Right.
Man, this game does not look like most other games, though. Just thinking along those lines. And it's actually, like, before I played this, I don't even really know like how I imagine this game would play. It turns out that's a very difficult question to answer. Actually, it's fairly easy to answer, but it's just the answer is very surprising. It's essentially a PC adventure game, but it's on rails, and it just has like occasionally first-person shooting segments. Not even really like, it's not even really a first-person shooter because you're just planted at one place, but sometimes you'll just have to, shoot something with your gun, with your cursor, or just aim a reticle around the screen. It's very strange.
Huh, that's bizarre.
But the rest of the time, you are just wandering around these weird environments, solving Resident Evil-style puzzles like, oh, do I need the fire ring to activate this candlestick? Or, just weird stuff that doesn't really make sense.
I love that. Yeah.
Have you played this at all?
You and I talked about this offline. I thought I had, but what I was thinking of is a game called Killer is Dead. Not Killer 7. So I don't think I've played this.
Okay.
But looking at pictures of it and screenshots and stuff like that, I'm familiar with the look of it. It looks familiar.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's probably worth mentioning. So this was, I don't know his exact title on this, but it was, I'm going to say directed by Suda51, who is, that guy. He was responsible for all these kind of weird, little artsy video games starting back around. I think this is the first major title of his that I really remember associating with him. Mm-hmm. Then he went on to do like, what did he do after this? He did Lollipop Chainsaw, like Killer is Dead. He was involved to some degree on Shadows of the Damned. Mm-hmm. And, all these other games that are like, I want to say they're, and No More Heroes. How could I forget?
Yeah. That's probably his biggest thing.
Yeah. But they're all like, I feel like none of them have been like smash hit successes, but they always they're like very stylish and seem to be just doing weird experimental things with what you can do in a video game. And they just all seem very cool. They're just like, oh man, he made another game. What are you doing this one? What does it look like?
Right. He's a bit of sort of an eccentric kind of visionary in a lot of ways. He really, and it's sort of, I've only played a few of these games. I've played Lollipop Chainsaw, I've played Shadow of the Dams, and it sometimes seems like a lot of big ideas that sort of are struggling to be constrained by limited resources.
Yeah.
And he has a very dark sensibility, which I kind of dig. There's a lot of like death analogies and creepy skull things in his video games that that aesthetic kind of works for me.
Yeah, this is definitely true with Killer 7. It also just like Killer 7 is a very unique aesthetic, which is a little hard to describe. It feels like it's not exactly cell shaded, but the graphics are very minimalist. It's like a 3D game, but it uses very few like colors to draw all of the characters, if that makes sense. So a lot of the screens that you navigate around will just be like black and kind of obscured in shadow. And then the characters will have, they kind of look cel shaded, but it's like a very unique take on it. It doesn't look like a comic book or a cartoon or anything. It looks like an old, like, I don't know, vaporwave album cover, possibly.
That's a good call. Yes, it looks like it could very well be the cover of my favorite synth pop band from 1987.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It looks like an old like SGI demo of something where you're like, oh man, look, this is in 3D. Well, the graphics are amazing, right? Or like Virtua Racing or Virtua Fighter.
Outrun. That's where that. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say Outrun.
Well, that's what that sort of aesthetic has become sort of called Outrun.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not even... I don't know what I think about that. But yeah, it's very, very distinct visuals, which are very cool, very atmospheric. And then it's just a weird, like, it looks like it's going to be a first-person shooter. Like, there are tons of promo screenshots of people waving guns around and shooting down enemies who are trying to rush you, but really you're just running along running through corridors, or you don't even have, like, free movement, really.
Yeah.
Like, I'm playing this on the PC on a mouse and keyboard, which is just, which is kind of nightmarish because the Steam port does not explain any of the PC controls. Like when you go through the tutorial, it's like, press the A button and now push the X and the Y button. And I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Oh, so it's just ported over from a console without changing any of the keyfigs?
Yeah, well, I think they're talking to me, expecting me to be using an Xbox controller.
Right.
But I am I'm not. So, I mean, that's a little weird, but it's kind of beside the point. You essentially, I think if you're using a controller, like I said, you don't have free movement. You just push the stick forward and your character runs forward along this path, like this rail. And then you push another button and he does a 180 and just starts running in the other direction when you push the stick forward. It's very strange. It's, I can't really think of another game to compare this to, but it's very disorienting when you first start out because it looks like, you're running around this environment, but you're really just running in a straight line. It's sort of like if you took one of those early Resident Evil games, or like one of the PlayStation Final Fantasy games where everything is on like a pre-rendered background and they have all those cool cinematic camera angles. So you go around the corner and suddenly the camera is facing this weird direction, if that makes sense. But imagine if you could only push one button and your character would just walk forward. So it's not like you even can do circles around the police station lobby.
Weird.
Yeah,
Seems like a very strange choice.
It's real weird. So once you kind of get over that, it is you just end up talking to these weird characters and solving these weird puzzles. The premise of the game, I'll just give you the very basic premise because it doesn't even really explain the the plot setup until after the first chapter. But you are playing as this group of assassins known as the Killer Seven, who are essentially like they're all split personalities of this one master assassin.
No.
And they're all named Smith. So like the main guy is this old man in a wheelchair named what's his name? It's Harmon Smith. And then by changing the channels on the TV, you can select one of the other 6 personalities. There's 7 total, and then each of them have like their own style and unique skills. It ranges from like I've been playing as you start out playing this guy who is sort of like the boss of all the assassins. He's like their manager. If one of them gets killed, he's the guy who goes out and like collects their body and brings them back to the TV room so you can revive them. And then there's like the flashy guy in the Hawaiian shirt and the other guy who uses knives. There's the token woman assassin. You get the whole group in there.
Sure.
But the guy who ended up playing the most is just this guy. He looks like one of the Reservoir Dogs, just named Dan Smith. And I feel like he really embodies the whole kind of spirit of this game because he's got the Reservoir Dogs suit, he's got this huge revolver, and as you're piloting him around these environments, he's holding his revolver, and he doesn't hold it off to the side or in any normal fashion how you would hold a gun as you are just running down a hallway. He kind of like hangs it over his shoulder, like behind his head, like he was carrying a suit or something. Which makes no sense at all, but boy does it look cool when he does it. And I feel like that is like the essence of Suda 51 is just let's do something that is kind of outlandish, but it looks great, so we get points for that.
Gotcha. Yes, that sounds about right. Yep. Style over substance.
Yeah, a little bit. It seems like the plot is going to be. It seems like it's going to be interesting if it kind of delivers on what it seems like it's setting up, but I'm not too far into this yet, so I can't completely pass judgment on it. So yeah, so you get this weird ragtag group of assassins, and you go around figuring out whether you want to use the fire or the water ring on all the objects you find in these weird environments as you make your way towards this target who you're supposed to assassinate.
And do you have all 7 of them available to you kind of at any given time, depending on what channel you change it to? And
yeah, you can kind of like, the wheelchair guy usually hangs out at the base because he's in a wheelchair. All he has is this big sniper rifle, so he's not super effective running down these hallways. But yeah, you can switch between, I guess, the remaining 5 or 6 depending on what obstacles you run into. I feel like for the most part, I'm going to end up using just this main guy because he's like very well rounded, and I've been putting all my my upgrades into this guy. But occasionally you'll need to switch to one because one of them can jump really high and get up on the roof of this building, or one has this enormous grenade launcher that knocks holes in walls or whatever. So it's very strange because usually what will happen is I will just be running around as Dan Smith, and I'll come up to a wall and be like, oh, I gotta switch to this other guy with the grenade launcher, who incidentally is like a Mexican wrestler. So I switch to him and he takes down the wall, and then I just immediately switch back to the other guy. And I'm just like, well, thanks for the assist. And then the game continues. So it's a little strange. Like if you really found like you like one of the other characters more than one of the other ones, you're welcome to play as that one and put all your upgrades into them. But so far there really hasn't been the need to play as many of them or like multiple assassins for long stretches of time.
Other than these little kind of incidental situations where their abilities.
Yeah, you really just bring them out for like to utilize their abilities.
To open up a wall. Yeah.
I guess, one thing that could happen is, if one of your characters gets killed, they are kind of out of the action until the manager comes back and retrieves their body. So at that point, you have to switch to one of the other assassins who is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't been, that hasn't been too much of an issue so far. It's so strange because for the most part, it's just an adventure game. You solve weird puzzles and talk to characters who are also very strange. But occasionally you will just be running around and you'll hear one of the enemies laughing at you because they're kind of these spooky demon things. And at that point you switch over to the first person mode and start trying to shoot their weak points with your gun. So you have these weird assassins. You have these strange first person shooting segments dropped in. It's just a really, really strange combination.
Yeah. Does it work though? I think that sometimes my sort of association with these with Suda51 games in a lot of ways is they seem a little inaccessible. They're weird or sort of poorly localized or weird. Yeah, that I don't know what to latch on to when I play them, so I've not played a lot of them. Does it make sense? Do you find it compelling, or is it just seem sort of odd for odd's sake?
Well, so let me get this out of the way. The localization is not terrific. It's not bad in that you're not understanding things, but it's done in a way, it just feels like kind of a mid-2000s Japanese game where the dialogue it feels like it's trying to be a little, it implies a lot, and the characters say a lot of things that don't really have a lot of meaning, but they just seem to be suggesting that things are going on behind the scenes, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think so.
So I feel like that's part of the story, though. There's this grand story that's slowly unraveling, and hopefully by the end, I hear that the story ends up being very good. So I hope it actually goes somewhere. But it's not cool. I don't know. It feels a little bit dated. As for how well the rest of the gameplay comes together, I think it actually works. It's a little strange just how much shooting you end up doing, which is funny. Because I actually tried to play this previously on Gamecube closer to when it came out. And at that point, I really just thought this is a game where you spend the whole time shooting things. And then maybe you solve a puzzle. But it's really playing it now, it feels like it's mostly the puzzle game and talking to people and making your way around these environments, which are kind of maze-like. And just the fact that you're sometimes interrupted to have to shoot a demon thing feels very arbitrary.
Oh, weird.
So I think when I tried to play it back then, I was expecting a shooter, and I was just not mentally prepared to deal with all the weird puzzle solving and all the very bizarre dialogue that the characters were spitting out. But now that I'm, a little more familiar with Suda51's sort of approach to making video games, And knowing the reputation that this game has, I feel like I'm in a much better mindset to play it now. So I'm really into just wandering around solving these weird puzzles and just dealing with the combat. It's not totally unmanageable, but it's kind of like just a weird thing that you have to do as you make your way from one room to the next.
Right. And it sounds like maybe playing it with a mouse would be beneficial.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is so much better, actually. I feel like I didn't make it far in the GameCube one just because you actually have to do a lot of really precision shooting because of these enemies. Like, you can shoot them a bunch of times in the body or whatever to take them down, but if you can hit their weak point, which is usually a little glowing spot on like their arm or their leg, they just go down in one hit, and you get way more experience points for doing that. And I remember just that being a nightmare with the GameCube controller. It's so much better on PC, so that's one reason. Like, even though they're trying to make me use a controller through the tutorial, I'm just like, no, I kind of like shooting with the mouse much better.
Well, it gives you the ability to kind of brute your way through it.
Yeah,
to get back to solving puzzles and.
Yeah, so I didn't know what to expect this time around. I remember I bounced off it pretty hard back on the GameCube. But now I'm just like, oh, there's actually kind of a cool game in here.
Oh, cool.
I'm looking forward to getting more into it.
Well, good. What a pleasantly surprising revelation.
Yeah. I was expecting, I feel like when I tried to play it before, I just end up getting lost all the time just because the way you navigate all the environments is so weird. Plus all the like obtuse dialogue and the weird shooting was just like, I don't really like any of this except for the graphics. So I'm very relieved that I'm having a very different experience with it this time around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 15 years old, right? I mean, it's yeah. Your taste has changed dramatically in that time, I presume, and your patience maybe has changed pretty dramatically in that time. So maybe you're just in a better place to be able to process it now.
I really don't know what I was expecting the last time, but so far so good. I'm dramatically farther into it this time than I was previously. In fact, I don't even know, like, I can't imagine how quickly I just gave up on this the first time because I was so fast into this playthrough where I was doing stuff where I was just like, I have absolutely no memory of doing this on the GameCube. This is not that far into the game. So that's a little concerning, but whatever. We're past that, I think. So yeah, I will hopefully get through all 13 or so hours of this. It's broken out into chapters, so I've been doing maybe one or 1.5 of those every day.
Cool. All right. Well, good. That's surprising. I know the game has a bit of a reputation for being well, I guess maybe that's not true because I was thinking of a different game.
Right. Well, tell us about Killer is Dead, though.
Killer is Dead, which is also a Suda51 Grasshopper manufacturer game, and it probably is related in some way to Killer 7, but I bounced off that game real hard, so I don't know that I have a lot of insight I can offer on that, but I don't know. I don't know. Old games can be a challenge sometimes. So when you were like, I want to play Killer 7, I'm like, well, this should be either a train wreck or interesting to say the least. So I'm glad it's interesting. That's good.
Yeah. I remember one of the major complaints about this is that people just felt too constrained about where they're able to go because you're just stuck on this path, like this pre-scripted path most of the game. But so far that hasn't been a big issue. That's a little tricky to just remember where you are because there's not really like a minimap on screen as you're navigating. It's sort of Resident Evil style where you just stop and bring up a map on a separate screen. And because all the camera angles are facing different directions, you're just like, well, what is this room shaped like? And is this which useless, exit is this? That's a little like that could be better, but it hasn't been a huge sticking point yet.
Huh. Well, cool. I'm glad this is not sort of lost to the sands of time. There's a lot of video games that sort of disappear with their console. I think, and the Wii and the GameCube. This also came out on the Wii. Was about 1 million years ago in video game terms. So it's cool that this is still playable on the PC, and you at the very least are keeping it alive today.
Yeah. Well, I was so surprised when they announced that they were porting. I was just like, what? Like, who likes that game? But I guess there's more to it than I thought. And I'm a little surprised that it didn't also come out on like PS4 or Xbox at this around the same time.
Yeah. Or the Switch, man. Everything goes on the Switch. You can charge $10 more for it on the Switch.
Yeah. Anyway, it's cool. I was not expecting to be into it, really. I was a little pessimistic on it, but it's proven me wrong. It's cool.
Good. So, what is Yarntown, the other game that you have been playing?
So I found this game Yarntown. It was a Discord recommendation. As it turns out, so this came out like a week or so ago, just as I came off of playing Bloodborne, and it is like a cute retro remake of the first couple of areas of Bloodborne. Just came out. The timing is very weird, but it was like, oh, perfect. I'm kind of putting Bloodborne down a little bit so I can check out the rest of the games in the Backlog Attack, but I can spend a little bit of time with this to see what it's all about. And it was super fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It really surprised me. Like, I saw this. Again, it's called Yarntown by this guy, Max Mraz. And you look at it, and it looks like, at first glance, it looks like a little Zelda game. It's like a top-down 2D kind of action game.
Oh, wow. I'm looking at screenshots of it, and it exactly looks like that.
Yeah, and then you look a little closer, and you're like, oh, is that the Bloodborne guy? Yeah, he's got the little tricorn hat or whatever. And then as I kept looking at these screens, I was like, I know where this is in the game. Like, I recognize, like, there's this cart here, and here's this boss that you fight. So it's actually really impressive, the amount of detail that went into recreating sort of the full 3D Bloodborne experience in 2 dimensions as closely as possible.
Huh. And is it as focused on sort of that very deliberate combat as its sort of big brother?
It is, yeah. It tries to bring in a lot of the mechanics from Bloodborne. So it's not just like the map and the enemies and the bosses and things. So you have the same sort of, you got your standard attack and you got your charged attack, and you have your gun that you use to counter enemies, and you have your little roll, which is very cute when he does it because it's like a little tiny sprite doing it. It tries to, it offers kind of like the same parry system where, if you stun an enemy in the middle of an attack, you can do this critical counterattack on them. I found it very difficult to do in this, I guess just because the timing is probably different. What I was really hoping for is I was like, okay, I've got a few hours of Bloodborne under my belt. I should just be a pro at this. But it's like, no, the buttons are, in different places, and the timing is just different enough where it's not quite as easy. I'm not just like able to slip right into it. But it was still fun. It was still enjoyable. I had to like relearn a little bit how this game worked. But it was super fun just going around these same streets and kind of thinking like, oh yeah, here's the staircase where, there's a guy who's going to be hiding around the corner. Here's the place where the dog jumps out.
And was the guy hiding around the corner, and did the dog jump out?
Yeah. They were all there, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
There was even this one point I had kind of gotten over the novelty of just recognizing places. So I was just like, oh yeah, let's go on and fight the next enemy. But there's this point very early in Bloodborne where you come across this long bridge, and there's a group of enemies waiting for you on the bridge, and even farther down the bridge there's another enemy who at some point just hurls an enormous fireball down the bridge at you. And I got killed by that thing many times because he kind of does it while you're distracted by these enemies. But I got to the same point in Yarntown, and I was like, oh man, it's the bridge. Gotta watch out for this thing. And lo and behold, there was no fireball guy in this version, which was a little disappointing. But it was ingrained into my brain. I was just like, oh, this bridge is trouble. We've got to watch out.
Do you think someone who is not familiar with Bloodborne would appreciate this, or does it just serve as an homage?
I think somebody's never played Bloodborne could enjoy it. It does feel a little bit like a little proof of concept to me, where it's like, could we make Bloodborne in a 2D style? Because it stays very close to the mold, in that it even has like a lot of the same dialogue as you are picking out weapons and picking up items, and the game is explaining how they work. It's like a lot of it is just verbatim from Bloodborne, which is like, I don't know. I'd kind of like to see somebody make a game in the Bloodborne style, but it's not just exactly one-to-one Bloodborne. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's very cool. It's very fun to revisit all these areas in this 2D version of it. And I was also able to just completely cheese the first boss because it is not able to attack up or down. It just attacks left to right. So I was just standing off to the side, just whacking at it. Being like, it's my revenge finally for all those times you killed me and took all my blood in the 3D version.
Not a strategy that'll work in the 3D version.
I got off easy in this one.
No, that's great.
But it was a fun little thing. And as I was playing this, I learned it is put together but using this thing called the Solarus engine, which is sort of like a I don't know how you describe it. It's like this framework for building just Zelda clones, essentially. Or, not Zelda clones necessarily, but just 2D adventure-style games, sort of in the Zelda mold. Like this is, like a 2D version of Bloodborne. And I had never heard of this before, so I went and checked out their website, and it looks like just a dozen or so, like, Zelda knockoffs. Like, they actually say Zelda in the title. I don't know. They might want to, like, rethink that so they don't get Nintendo's lawyers knocking on their door, but
somebody's going to shut that down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It seems like just a fun thing, like a fun little community of people making like 2D Zelda games, because those are not incredibly common these days.
Right.
So I don't know how long this has been around, but it just seems like a fun thing if you're looking for more Zelda likes. Maybe check this thing out.
What is that called?
It's called Solarus. I'll put a link to it on the show post at VGHangover.com.
Cool.
There's even one called Vegan on a Desert Island, which I didn't look into much, but I thought it might be of interest.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, vegans have a bad habit of landing on desert islands.
Yeah. And it's like, well, lots of coconuts there, I guess. But anyway, cool. So the Bloodborne thing is called Yarntown.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's free. You can go check it out. I'll have a link to that as well on the show post.
Excellent.
It was a fun little distraction.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd definitely like to be playing more Bloodborne, but I'm juggling all these other games, so I'll probably get back to that at some point.
Yeah. August is wide open, DJ.
Is it? Well, is anything coming out in August?
Is anything coming out? Yeah.
I really wanted to play Xenoblade on the Switch, because that just got the re-release, but then I was like, well, we got the backlog starting. Probably not the best time to do that. I actually want to finish all these games.
It's also obscenely long, right?
It's supposed to be like 100 hours long. I don't know what I'm doing.
Your life is out of control.
It really is. As like effortlessly as I am making my way through all these old games, it's just there's still that element of just having no control over anything.
Just convert the show over to just nonstop Backlog Attack.
You could definitely do that. It wouldn't even be difficult.
Yeah. Yep. Just commit ourselves to not playing any games from the current year. We would still have no shortage of games to talk about. Ugh. I don't want to do that, though, because I have Paper Mario I want to talk about.
Yeah. No, I thought about it, but then I was like, well, I should talk about something more recent than, PlayStation 2.
We can bounce around. Yeah. Not everybody plays the hottest, newest thing.
It's true. Yeah. I feel like people want to know what's going on, though, with the hottest, newest thing.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So, in the last few minutes of the show here, we want to do something that we have not done in a very long time. We used to do a segment on the show way back in the day called Viewer Mail. And we used to, begin and end every show by begging the people in our community to send us emails and tweet us and stuff like that. And we kind of stopped doing that, didn't we? I think.
Well, people just talk to us on the Discord now or on Twitter.
Yeah, Discord kind of took the place of that. So
who uses email? Yeah. Sorry, except for this guy.
Some people still do. So yeah, every now and then we get emails. Generally at the end of the year, we get a ton of emails for our, our Christmas Drunktacular episode. But scattered throughout the year, occasionally we get a lot of spam. We get a lot of Viagra ads. Those are mostly yours.
Okay.
I know. But no, I get a lot of garbage in my inbox to the @VGHangover email address. But every now and then there is a nugget of gold, like this lovely little email that we got from Oliver.
This is such an involved preamble for somebody
I
sending us an
know, that
email.
was a lot. Feel free to edit that as appropriate, TJ.
I'll just make it longer.
Right? Just loop it. People will be all, he just said this.
Yeah. Don't adjust your set.
Yep. So we had this really nice email from Oliver. DJ, is there any other sort of color you would add to that? Would you like to stretch this preamble out any further?
I think, let me tell you, back in the day when I was getting this email, no, let's not do that anymore. Yeah. It starts, long time listener, first time emailer, love it, classic intro. It says, I've been listening to Video Game Hangover since 2013. I know this because I remember using your podcast while taking my newborn for walks, and she is 7 years old. Oh
cow.
My God.
You have my attention.
That is, wow, we are old.
Yeah. We started in 2011, right?
Yes, that's true,
yes.
I think.
Oh.
Don't think about it too hard. 2011, okay. 2012, I don't know. Anyway, sorry for the interjection. Oliver continues, I remember slowly working my way through your archives, but life kept getting in the way, and I could never catch up to the present. Today, though, I have finally caught up with the podcast, so now I am in the interesting position where I need to wait a week to hear something new. So I guess my summer backlog attack was the Video Game Hangover archives, and it only took me 7 years. Well, congratulations, Oliver. That is, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words.
That is, yeah, I mean, that is quite an accomplishment. I would say that I've not even listened to every episode of Video Game Hangover. So, not for lack of interest by any stretch, but, I lived through most of it. So
right, you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
He continues, I am a 40-year-old male, and my wife does not play video games. I have a PS4 and a Switch, and I play most of your mobile recommendations on my phone. My 2-year-old son likes watching Gran Turismo Sport and Construction Simulator 2. My 7-year-old daughter has started playing games on her own, like Snipper Clips, Lego Harry Potter, and Wander Song. And I'm working my way through Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Dragon Quest XI right now. Wow. Maybe you'll probably finish Dragon Quest XI before either of us do.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And he signs off saying, thanks for everything you've done and keep up the good work, Oliver. Thank you so much, Oliver. That was so wonderful to get your email.
Yeah, absolutely. What a delight to know that, and we know this, I say this sort of like tongue-in-cheek, but to know that people are out there listening to this thing that we put out on the internet on a weekly basis, it means a lot to get feedback like this, and to know that, geez, for 7 years, we've been an occasional voice in Oliver's ear while, going on walks with his kids. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's nice. That's such a nice detail.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've had some interesting insight lately based on feedback on how we fit into our listeners' lives. We get a lot of like doing the dishes and cleaning the house or taking my kids for a walk. We go to work with a lot of people. I've heard that quite a few times. So yeah, it's interesting that we have that weird little presence in people's ears. And yeah, we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to know that there are people who have stuck around for the whole shebang.
Yeah. In this case, the entire run.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Oliver, you should be our official archivist. It doesn't pay, but it's a lot of work.
You actually have to pay us.
Yeah. I don't know what that would involve. You'll have to just intricately catalog everything we talk about on every show and make a searchable database out of it for us, please.
Yeah. Sure, people are just itching to do that.
Yeah, right. Cool. So if you want to be like Oliver and you would like to send us an email occasionally, DJ, how can people do that?
Well, if you want to go the email route, you can just send it to contact@VGHangover.com. We promise we will read it and probably read it on the show as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, you can always tweet us
your Viagra
Discord.
ads.
No, please don't. That'll probably get filtered. Maybe you had some Viagra insights about a previous episode that you want to share with us. We're probably not going to get it. I don't know where this is going.
No, me either, but cool. Well, thank you, Oliver, for that. Thank you for everybody who participates on our Discord every week. We would encourage everybody, Oliver, too, to get into our Discord. If you want to get to the link to that, go to VGHangover.com. There's all kinds of other stuff on the website, too. There's information on how you can enter our Backlog Attack contest. There's not a lot of time left, but you could certainly still jump in at this time and do kind of an amazing 1-week blitz through your backlog.
You just got a few days left at this point. So I don't know. You're going to have to pull out all the stops, but there's still a chance.
It would have to be one hell of an impressive backlog attack.
Yeah.
Yep. But there's a contest there. You can win the video game of your choice. So go to VG Hangover detail. Let me try that again. VGHangover.com for details about that. For show notes, for links. And geez, if you just want to talk to us about the show, go there.
Yeah. Before we go, we should hand out our final Backlog Attack challenge for everybody playing along.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. So like we said, just a few days left from when the show comes out for you to complete as much as you can of your backlog. And I don't know, maybe got some very ambitious backlogs this year. Maybe you're struggling. Well, this backlog challenge is designed to get you a few extra points towards your, I don't know, a score or something. Probably a good idea to do it. But anyway,
yeah,
this continues our list of screenshots from the last few weeks. This week's is extra special. We want you to post the end credits or the end title. You know, it just says the end on the game you've just beaten.
Yeah.
So show us that you've actually completed something from your backlog. Or if you can't do that, maybe send us a screenshot of a game over screen instead.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So either one of those. I haven't finished a game on my list so far, so I will be going the game over route for this, I think.
Yeah, it seems unlikely I'm going to see the finish line. Well, maybe Knights and Bikes, but yeah. So that the end screen is tough to see sometimes. So, you know what I love in a video game, and Nintendo does this a lot. I like the thanks for playing screen.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of that.
That's nice.
Yeah. Usually Nintendo sort of involves a wide shot of all of the key characters.
Yeah.
Waving. Yeah.
Or they do their special
thanks for playing screen.
Yeah. And at the very long list of names at the end, it says, and you. Or, something along those lines.
Yeah. Yes, those are good. Yep. Iron Man will be back. No, wait, that's a different thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You will be back in Assassin's Creed Part 24.
Yep. You will be.
I have, I mentioned I haven't finished any of the games on my list this year. I plan to eventually. But the final game on my list, the entire point of it being on my list is that I never finished it. So I'm going to make a real effort to get through this one, and that is Super Mario RPG.
Oh, excellent.
Again, not a short game, but I am determined if I don't get to the end of this game, it was all for nothing. So we got to do it.
Cool. And I've got, what do I have coming up? I have, where the hell's my list? I don't remember what I committed to playing. Wolfenstein, your choice. Young Blood. I'm going to play that.
Nice.
Yeah. It's an interesting clash. Mario and Wolfenstein.
Yeah. Two great tastes. Something.
Your chocolate's in my peanut butter. All right, cool. Let's wrap this thing up. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover, or do all of the things I said before regarding Discord and our website.
Yes.
Yep. We would encourage you to please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can get podcasts, and tell your friends about the show. That's probably the most important part.
Yes, that helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
Helps spread the word. Want to give thanks again to Lemonectric for our intro and outro music this week, and recommend that you check out more of his stuff at lemonectric.bandcamp.com.
Excellent. We will be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya. Unacceptable!